It is now the 48th day of Donald Trump's war with Iran. Today, yet again, we heard the same optimism from the president that this thing is going to end soon, saying he might not need to extend the two-week ceasefire set to expire next week.
We're doing very well, I can tell you. Maybe it'll happen before that. I'm not sure it needs to be extended. Just so you know, Iran wants to make a deal, and we're dealing very nicely with them.
If there's no deal, would you be willing to extend the ceasefire, or will the fighting resume, Mr. President?
I would say the fighting. If there's no deal, fighting resume. All you have to do is take a look at the blockade. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. That blockade is the best thing. And I'll tell you something. I think the blockade has been more powerful than the bombs. I think we will have an agreement between Lebanon, and they're going to take care of Hezbollah. But they're going to be working on Hezbollah right now. But we'll have an agreement between Israel, very importantly, and Lebanon.
How much longer will Americans continue to see these high gas prices?
Well, they're not very high.
In case you couldn't hear over that helicopter, when the president was asked, how long are we going to see these high gas prices, his answer was, well, they're not very high. Please note, the average gallon of gas in the United States currently costs $4.09. That is almost a full dollar higher than 1 year ago. We did, on the positive front, see some movement today when it comes to Israel's attacks on Hezbollah and Lebanon. Trump announced that the two countries agreed to a 10-day ceasefire, and it began earlier this evening. The continued Israeli attacks in Lebanon have been a big obstacle in both the ceasefire in Lebanon and in reaching an overall peace deal. This morning, we heard from the Pentagon and Pete Hegseth himself. He began speaking to Iran, threatening the possibility of more attacks. Watch this.
We are locked and loaded on your critical dual-use infrastructure, on your remaining power generation, and on your energy industry. We'd rather not have to do it, but we're ready to go at the command of our president and at the push of a button. This blockade, which the chairman will detail this morning, is the polite way that this can go.
Let me be clear. This blockade applies to all ships, regardless of nationality, heading into or from Iranian ports. The U.S. action is a blockade of Iran's ports and coastline, not a blockade of the Strait of Hormuz.
The chairman of the Joint Chiefs went on to say that American forces would pursue any Iranian-flagged ship or ship trying to help Iran, even in international waters. All right, we have a lot to get to, so let's get smarter with the help of our lead-off panel tonight. Damian Paletta is here, Wall Street Journal's Washington coverage chief and author of its politics newsletter. My dear, dear friend, Leanne Caldwell, chief Washington correspondent for Puck News, and Tom Nichols, a staff writer for The Atlantic and professor emeritus at the Naval War College. All right, Damian, the president says that new peace talks are probably going to happen over the weekend. I'm not saying he's not telling the truth, but I will say that this boy has cried wolf many, many times. So what do we actually know?
I think he's trying to manifest talks over the weekend. It wasn't that long ago that J.D. Vance went to Pakistan to have talks. He was barely there for maybe 24 hours, came back with no deal. They thought there could be talks this week, even they said as soon as today. That didn't happen. I think he wants these talks to happen quickly so that this can all get behind him and gas prices can keep coming down. He keeps saying there's a deal almost here, but we haven't heard anything from Iran. They seem willing to kind of wait this out. So the more he keeps talking and coming up with blockades and Hegseth keeps threatening, it's hard to get a sense of what the actual White House's approach is here.
Tom, the three musketeers, last time around, J.D. Vance, Steve Witkoff, and Jared Kushner were the lead negotiators. Are they the right people to negotiate complex issues about the future of a nuclear program and a key global waterway? Like, we've heard it over and over that Steve Witkoff, an incredible real estate tycoon, Jared spearheaded the Abraham Accords, but this is serious stuff. Like, are they really the right people?
No. That's an easy answer. No, they don't know what they're doing. They don't understand the issues. The only possible thing that could recommend them as negotiators is that they're close to Donald Trump. There is no process here. There's, we are rumored to have a Secretary of State who normally would be involved in such things, but he seems busy doing other things. And so their best argument is whatever we tell you is something that Donald Trump, that we speak for Donald Trump. But in terms of actually understanding these issues, negotiating anything, being able to understand the complexity of the technology or the diplomatic issues involved, of course not. I mean, thanks for the softball, but that's an easy call. That they really shouldn't be involved in this at all. We shouldn't be where we are right now. This war shouldn't have started the way it did. It shouldn't have progressed the way it did. And everybody's just playing catch up now. And that's all. So the best you can say is, well, they speak for the president because at least one of them is the president's son-in-law.
There's something that you said there that I think is worth repeating. You didn't say that the war shouldn't have started. You said that the war shouldn't have started the way it did. And is this a problem with people sort of getting misquoted or misrepresented? When people take issue with the way the war has been handled, they're immediately labeled, oh, are you on Iran's side? You think Iran's a good guy? You're not saying that they're a good guy. You're saying it's the way this was executed. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I was not in favor of starting a war with Iran because I thought we had many other alternatives for dealing with Iran. I hate to bring in the just war tradition with all of the fighting going on with the Pope, but we were not at a point of last resort. But if the president decided that he had information that Iran constituted an unacceptable and imminent threat to the United States, then he should have told the people of the United States, told our allies, made his case to our closest allies into the country and to the Congress, and then actually had a plan for what was going to happen next. Instead, Donald Trump blundered into this thinking that 4 or 5 days of bombing was going to bring down the regime, and then magically things would just get better, and he'd be having a victory parade. And without that, he's lost. And I don't think any of his negotiators know what to do next because I don't think they know what he wants at this point. This war has had 10 different rationales at this point.
Well, let's stick with communications because today, Leanne, Russ Vought, the OMB director, declined to give even an estimate for the cost of the war. And you heard that soundbite of the president just a moment ago where he said gas prices aren't that high. Those two sound bites alone feel like a ready-made ad for the Democrats come the midterms. How did members of the GOP on the Hill feel about this, who have been pleading with the president, start talking about the economy and economic issues that the American people face?
So Republicans on Capitol Hill have been wanting the president, as you said, to focus on the economy. What they also want is, with this war, they want the president to come and explain to them, or at least his advisors, to give the Congress information about what is happening and details that they are just not getting from this president, including the very basic things of the cost of the war. Yesterday, for a Puck event, I sat down with Senator Todd Young, a Republican from Indiana. It was a super fascinating conversation because he's a member of the Intelligence Committee. And I said, did you see any intelligence in the committee that would mean that this war should happen now? He essentially said no, but he said, but we are in this war and we have to finish it. We have to end this in the appropriate way. And so because many members will privately say, and Todd Young publicly say, that the war probably should not have happened now in this way, their hands are tied. The president has gotten the United States into this, and so they feel like it has to be finished in some way. But now what they're demanding is details, an action plan, an end plan, what happens next, and the cost of the war, and they're not getting that. Meanwhile, an election is in 6 months, Steph, and they would so much rather be talking about the economy and how to reduce the cost of living and not high gas prices.
How about details on this meeting the president says could happen between the leaders of Israel and Lebanon? Besides the president telling us it's a possibility, is there any concrete evidence that this is on the agenda?
Well, I mean, he didn't say Hezbollah, and they're kind of key to this whole thing. It's one thing for Lebanon to meet with Israel, which would still be a big deal, but you need Hezbollah to agree to kind of put their arms down, and so far they have not done that. All they've done is acknowledge that there has been these talks. So He made an announcement. There might be some big event at the White House. We don't know. But this is way more complicated than he's making it out to be. And as you all were saying, he still has these Iran talks that we don't know what's going to happen. We're about a month away from Memorial Day. Okay, peak driving season is almost here. And if they have gas prices at $4.09 and going up, that's a huge economic nightmare and political nightmare for the Republicans heading into the summer with just months to go before the midterms.